Hello and welcome to our first Thursday with Annette for season 2. It's great to be back and I'm so glad you're joining me today because I'm looking at something a bit fizzy fabulous for Mother's Day, which is this Sunday. And it is out of book 1, the good old favourite, and I'm making, because who doesn't love, an apple tea cake. I thought, what would Mum want for Mother's Day? Morning tea, afternoon tea, whenever. It is the best cake ever. So we're making that today. But I wanted to point out something, and I'll talk to it as I go. But if you've got this little darling, which is the older version, this is the updated, and this has got the spine on it. You can tell because this has got the staple and different picture on the front. But in the back, you'll see there, this is the apple tea cake. So in this book, you get a whole page for it. But up here, there is a change in the recipe. So take note as I go along, and I wonder if you'll notice what it is. Because what I did when I was going through all the recipes, when I was doing the updated version, was I'd look at it and go, can I make you better? With what I know now, after all these years, like book 1 was created like 22 years ago, can I make it better? And I looked at this apple tea cake and I went, oh yes, I can. So what we need for this recipe is 2 egg whites, 1/3 cup of white sugar, and really at the end of the day, this is a pretty great one because it's using a lot of staple ingredients that you might have at home, so you could make this at the flick of a finger. So you've got 2 egg whites, 1/3 cup of white sugar, you've got 45 grams or 3 tablespoons of Floralite margarine, 1/3 cup of skim milk, you've got bicarb soda, which is 3/4 of a teaspoon, you've got some cinnamon, a green apple, if you've got red, don't worry, self-raising flour, cooking spray, and here is one of the changes from the old book. I'm using the little baby apple. It's unsweetened, it's 110 gram Heinz baby apple. In the old recipe, it just says 1/2 cup of apple puree. So this is the one that we've replaced that with. So there's one thing that was a little bit updated. So I've preheated my oven to 180 degrees fan force. My soapy sink's ready to go. I'm excited to bake for you. And if you're just joining me, hello, we're making apple tea cake for Mother's Day. I know, it's fantastic. So what we're going to start with first is you want 2 egg whites. And you'll notice that this is a very structured way how I do my cakes. This is giving you an example of how I do it, because this is basically, you know, you'll see I vary it of course with different cakes, but this is a good base recipe. So we want 2 egg whites. So I've saved 12 grams of fat at least by putting those egg yolks away. Now what we're going to put in here is 1/3 cup of white sugar, and this is the thing, this is enough for 10 slices, so you're only getting 10 into 1/3. It's not a lot of sugar, but this is the thing, it's going to be still delicious and fabulous. So let's beat that for about a minute, and this is the only time that you'll use your egg beater when you're making this recipe, and a lot of my recipes, like the muffins or the cakes, because you have to be a little delicate. Because we're not putting a lot of fat in, we've got to make sure we protect the flour, and so we make sure we treat it very gently. So, beating the egg whites and sugar. Thanks for joining me today. I cannot believe I had a month off in April for my birthday. My arm's doing really well. I had a lovely break, and I'm back ready to go. And hello, if you've just joined me, it's Apple Tea Cake, Book 1. There we go. Right, so that's done. Put that to the side. What I might do while we're mixing everything up is I've got my 45 grams or 3 tablespoons of flour. You need to melt it, so let's just throw that in the microwave because we can, and while we're cooking. So I always put some cling wrap on, take it to 7 and 30 seconds, and we don't have to worry about that anymore. Okay, so now what we're going to do is the apple puree. We're going to put in 3/4 of a teaspoon of bicarb soda. Now this was one of the things that I discovered way back with book 1, and it really helps lift up those low-fat cakes and making them fabulous. I know, I thought I was a bit clever. So 3/4 of a teaspoon, put it into your apple. Now it's bicarb soda, not baking soda. baking powder, it's bicarb, and it will get fizzy, like so, which we like. We like a bit of fizzy on these shows, but if you look here, you'll see it froths up, and that means we've activated the bicarb. And instead of putting a lot of oil or butter into the recipe, this actually, I found that the apple and the bicarb gave it the moisture that I was looking for with this particular type of recipe. All right, so I want all that apple out of there. Oh yes, I do. There we go. Let's put this over in the bin. Get your wooden spoon now and just mix it together. You don't need the electric beater now. Okay, so let's get the margarine out. So we have melted marge. So because I'm using Floralite, it's another thing that I've saved. But you might say, that's not in my recipe. If you've got the old book, that's right, you didn't have margarine in the older recipe. And I found by adding that little bit of marge to this, please, it takes it to the level up here of fizzy fabulous. It just seems to give more texture to the cake, and I found that with a lot of people, they would say it's a bit rubbery, and that's because we weren't protecting the gluten because there was no fats in there to protect it. So by putting that little bit of Floralite in, it really does make the cake better. So if you've got an old book, you need to write down about the Heinz 110 little baby jar next to the half cup of apple, and add in the 45 grams or 3 tablespoons of Floralite melted. Third a cup of skim milk, and that will cool down the margarine as well, and in we go. I mean, please, this is so easy to make, but I'll tell you what, it's super easy to eat as well, and I'm looking forward to Mother's Day because I'm going out with my family, and I am going to be taking this. I'm going to put this in the freezer because obviously it's Thursday, it's too soon, and I know if I leave it out, somebody called Billy will eat it all. So we're going to do in the freezer. It will freeze for ages. It's really good. So if you make it fresh though, it is a little bit better, I've got to say, but I still think frozen's good. Half a teaspoon of cinnamon.
Susan wants to know if you can use gluten-free flour.
Yes, someone's asking, who is it?
Susan.
Susan, hi Susan, asking if you could use gluten-free flour. Yes, I don't see why not. I think it'd still work really well. Try it, take a photo, let me know. So now I've got 1.5 cups of self-raising flour and half a teaspoon of cinnamon. I'm just going to sift that into the wet mix. So all we've done is beat some egg whites and a little bit of sugar. We've added the applesauce, the bicarb. We've then put in the melted marge, the milk, skim milk, and now we're just adding in the flour and a little bit of cinnamon, and just mix that in. 180 degrees fan forced oven, ready to go. And oh, I can smell it already. Now I'm going to use a green apple, but if you say, oh, I've only got red, I don't want to go out and buy one, then use the red dal. It's not a problem. I just find that the green is a bit more tart, and I think it goes really well with cooking. Now I'm not going to get in there and beat that. Did you notice I just mixed it up till the flour dissolved? That's it. Stop. Now we're going to get some cooking spray. I've got my 19 centimetre round cake tin. If you want to know how to measure, just measure from the bottom and that'll tell you. I'm just going to go over to my sink so I can spray it without getting it all over the place. Boom. Cake tin ready. So now where's my little scraper? We're going to now put that mix. I mean, are you getting how easy this cake is? But I'll tell you, so wow factor, because I don't know, I think most people love a tea cake. Oh yes, we do. So in it goes. Look at that beautiful cake mix. And I've got to tell you, homemade. I'm making this with love. I will happily brag about this to my children on Sunday, saying, would you like some cake that I made? I don't know, it just seems a bit more meaningful. when you do it yourself. So I'm going to put my spoon here and scrape it off, and then we're going to do the top. Now you could, if you wanted, just make it a plain tea cake and just put the cinnamon sugar on the top, and I'll show you how to do that in a minute. But I want the apple on there, which is what the recipe is about. But see how I'm moving it around? Push it right to the edge. We don't want a big blump in the middle. Is that the right word? Blump? Blob? And spread it out so it has a nice even rise to it. And I need to get rid of all my stuff into my soapy sink. Let me get this away. Get that soaking. All right, so there's the cake. Let's now do the top. And this is where it gets a bit busy fabulous. All right, so we need sugar, cinnamon, and an apple. And it's a large apple because you want to make sure you've got enough apple to get on the top of the cake. So I'm just going to now peel the apple. You don't want the skin on it. And as I said, if you've just got red, then that's fine. And I just think everyone loves it. It's a bit of an old-fashioned cake, isn't it? And it came from the UK, this particular style of tea cake. In America, they'll do tea cakes, but they're kind of like a bit of a biscuit, completely different to what we do. All right, so there's the skin off. Sharp knife. Let's put that little cake mix over there. And let's cut it into quarters. I'm going to get my smaller near flame knife and I'm going to just take out the centre. I mean, how hard is this recipe? I mean, maybe the kids could make it for Nana or Grandma or for Mum. You could leave hints. Just say, watch this video and it would be nice if you wanted to make this for me. And they could follow it. Okay. All we have to do now is slice the apple. Now the key is, you don't want big chunks. You want it to be fairly thin, because if it's really thick, it will fall through the cake batter, and we don't want that. So get your sharp knife onto it, and as I said, not too, see how that's just perfect. You don't want it sort of like, definitely you don't want that. As I said, you don't have to have the apple version. You could make it with just the cinnamon sugar top. But if you do love a tea cake, I have you covered, people. Yes, I do, because I must say, our family, we have always loved a tea cake. So you've got this one out of book 1, done. Now book 2 has a sultana tea cake, so that's just a little different. In book 4, you've got an orange and pecan tea cake. It is a bit fabulous. And in book 6, there's also a delicious pumpkin and cranberry. So you use mashed pumpkin in the cake. So it's a bit different as well. And then in book 7, I did a gluten-free one. Hello? Who was the lovely lady that asked about the gluten-free? Susan. Hello, book 7. It's called Apple Tea-licious. And it's like a little, they're like little muffins, and they're tea cakes, and they are incredible, and they're gluten-free, so you could even try that. So I like to cut the apple before I'm ready to just put it on. I don't cut it earlier because apple can go brown really quick, yeah? So we don't want brown apple. Now there's my dough. Now here's my apple, and what you do is you put it in the centre and overlap. Can you see what I'm doing there? So I'm pointing it all to go to the middle, but overlapping slightly. I'll just show you. Can you see that? See how they're fanning out? Yeah. And we just go all around, as I said, keeping it so it's pointing into the middle. I kind of take the little ones away and maybe use them in the centre. But this has got the wow factor, and I think Mum, Nan, Gran, Auntie, whoever is going to get this for Mother's Day is going to think they're a little bit special. So I'm picking out the really good pieces. Let's go round. So, I mean, it doesn't take long, does it? Looking for the bigger pieces, and we are there. Then I'll tell you what, so look, here we go. See how that is? Yeah? So now I'm going to put them along in the middle. So this is why I keep the smaller ones and I fan them on top. I'll show you in a sec. And I tell you what, it's so good to be back on a Thursday with you guys. We have so much fun here in the kitchen, don't we? Look. Can you see that? See how I've just put it in the middle? I know. Wonderful. All right, so now all we've got to do, 3 teaspoons of white sugar, teaspoon of cinnamon, and then just mix them together, and this is your top. So if you didn't want to have the apple, you wanted a plain one, this is where you would just sprinkle it on. Now, I use my hands, so I'm going to dry them because I find that an easier way to make sure I get an even distribution of the cinnamon sugar. Oh, how fabulous. I mean, it's an oldie but a goodie doll. It's out of book 1. Remember to make those changes. So the changes were the apple, you know, the pureed apple, and the adding the fluorite. Yeah. I mean, when I look at this, who's missing out? Not me. Who knew weight loss could be so deliciously healthy? This is Apple Tea Cake, book 1. Now this is where I'm just going to go around, see if the edges need a little bit more sugar cinnamon. And this is going to go in the oven, 180 degrees, for 35 to 40 minutes. So, hello, how good is that? And it was so easy to do. So in it goes. 35. Now, you might, depending on your oven, you might need a little bit longer, but what you can do to test it is either use a kebab stick and stick it through. If it comes clean, that means the cake is cooked in the centre, or toothpicks. If you don't have the little metal, what were they called, Bill? Skewers. If you don't have any metal skewers, see, nowadays we don't tend to have a lot of that stuff, but that's a good way to test. Just go in the centre of the cake, because that's where it'll be still maybe a little bit doughier. But even just touching it, you'll know. And there you go. So just bring it out. You can serve it warm. You can serve it cold. I like to cut a piece and put a little bit of fluorite on it. But hello, I made one earlier. Boom! There is my fabulous apple tea cake, book 1. And I'm very excited to enjoy that. But how great does it look? And remember, it does freeze. So if you want to make it now, you can. So if you would like to win book 1 with the updated version, you know what you've got to do on a Thursday? You have to like, share, and then in the comments, you just need to write hashtag Symply 2 good. SYMPLY number 2 good. Put that in the comment and I'll pick 3 fabulous people to get a personally signed copy of book 2. So next Tuesday, I'm back in the cooking class with Annette, and I'll be making, it's vegetarian week actually, and so I'm going to do a creamy pumpkin and pine nut sauce in the pasta section, book 3. And on Thursday, the best lasagna on the planet is my vegetable lasagna. It's out of book 1 as well, but it's also in the cooking for 1 or 2. And so that's our Veggie week next week. This week it's all been about Mother's Day. Like if you missed Tuesday, catch it on the thing, because I made orange and date scones. And of course now we've made the apple tea cake. So for more tips and recipes, you know where to go. You can find my shakes, my cookbooks, my cookware that I get from Neoflam, all the fun stuff at simplytoogood.com.au. And I will catch you next week. I think, do we freeze it or do we start it now? What do you say, Billy? Start it now. I love it. Alrighty guys, have a fabulous Mother Days to all the mums, the step mums, the foster mums, the mums of pets, the grannies, whoever is going to be enjoying Mother's Day, have a great one. And I'll see you on Tuesday. Bye now.